GT America, powered by AWS, has made its annual trip to the Lone Star State for a pair of races at Circuit of the Americas. Former champion Memo Gidley enters the weekend as the points leader in SRO 3 on the strength of 2 wins, but a host of challengers have emerged to take the fight to him across a pair of 40-minute sprint races here at COTA. Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. Down in the pit lane, that's where you'll find Amanda Busick on a hot afternoon here just outside of Austin, Texas, and the action on track about to heat up here as well. Great cast of characters, especially in SRO 3. We also have drivers in the Cup and GT4 classes, which we'll touch on throughout the course of the show. But the story right now might be these weather conditions. 87 degrees, 118 degrees on track, and 61% humidity in the air. That means it's a muggy day here at COTA.
It certainly is, but I have spoken to a number of the drivers here this afternoon since qualifying about concerns about managing those Pirelli tires, and they said should not be an issue. They really hang on really strongly with this new tire that we're running this year, and all of the drivers are very confident in the grip they're going to have throughout the course of this 40 minutes.
Might be more about those drivers trying to hang on across the 40 minutes of racing that we have coming up, and so too for our pit reporter who is braving these hot conditions down in the pit lane. Amanda, let's check in with you for the first time.
Hey, take a look at this. We don't always get this view. You're going to see Brian Till talking to Scott Blend about what the action is going to look like into turn number 1. Brian, I'll take you for a second. What did you say to Scott Blend there?
Well, we always talk to the front row, right? And so my pole sitter here, want to let Tony know, just remind him of what the start procedures are. When he gets into the start zone, he controls it. So when he goes, Tom's going to throw the green flag. And I just wanted to remind Scott that Tony being on the pole, he's got the right to start this race, so he's the one that's in control of the pace when they get to that start zone.
That was awesome. I don't always get to catch you down there. Well done. Well, guys, back to it. I do want to point out we have 5 different manufacturers here on the front 3 rows, and talking to the competitors, I was just talking to Memo Gidley, actually, and he was talking about, I love to see how much competition we have out here. He's starting on the second row here today. I asked him if anything happened in qualifying. He said, no, Amanda, I just have competition out here. He's ready for the race to get out there and get settled. That Mercedes behind you, we got to see the hometown car back here driven by Dan Knox. But back to the front row here, I've been talking to the drivers down here. Ryan, you're talking about the conditions, and you guys talking about tire deg and maintaining these Pirellis. These guys are going to have to maintain the heat out here. We're going to have highs of 89 reaching here in the afternoon of Austin, Texas. Some guys have cool suits, some don't, including your pole sitter.
Appreciate that, Amanda. Stay cool down there as best as you can. Appreciate the hard work gathering those stories for us ahead of the race. And certainly that front row is an interesting story. I think Tony Davis opened a lot of eyes with that qualifying effort to score his first career pole in GT America. Debuted in the championship at the tail end of the year last year. Now locked in for the season and flexing a little muscle here in Texas.
Yeah, he certainly showed great potential when he showed up at Barber Motorsports Park towards the end of last year, as you mentioned, Ryan. So the potential's been there, the pace is there, but he really nailed that lap here this morning. I was up and down pit lane as that qualifying session was going on. I said, is Davis's pace that we saw in practice for real? And suddenly he shot to the time of the top of the board there. But Scott Blend, an excellent qualifying performance for Ruckus Racing on the outside in that Porsche. He's got a lot of confidence going on. And when we talk about conditions like this is why you spend time in the gym and get ready for these hot days.
It's a lot of training that goes into having success on a day like today. Physical racetrack here, Calvin, at least through some of the sections, the high-speed S's, for instance.
Absolutely. So it's a very unique circuit. As you can see, 20 turns spread over the sort of 3.5 miles, just shy of that number. Big elevation change around this circuit, about 133 feet in total. But yes, going through those S's, you've got those big tire bundles that are installed here for the first time that we've run with those. So that changes the complexion a little bit. It may take the advantage away from certain cars that could really use up the curbs. It can't do that so much now, so that could equalize the field a little bit. And we haven't seen anyone hit one, but when we get into racing action, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it changes the sightlines, that's for sure, for the drivers as they try and negotiate these corners. Here's a man who's going to be on the charge, Kyle Washington. Big thumbs up in the e-boost machine. Comes in with some wind in his sails, but not the qualifying effort that he was expecting.
No, he's got a bit of work to do. He won the first race here last year, and it was champion-elect Justin Rothberg who won the second race. So Kyle's got a lot of confidence. He and Tom Sargent, of course, won in GT World Challenge America at Sonoma. So, you know Kyle, he's always up for a fight.
Yeah, he loves being in the thick of things, and he'll have a chance to be just in that spot here in a few short moments. The command to start the engines has been given, and we're about to turn these cars loose. Again, 40-minute sprint race, single driver, no pit stops unless something has gone totally amiss. And it is multi-class racing. Back for the second time ever is the new Cup class. One driver here this weekend, that's Dan Lecco driving his Ginetta, and a couple of GT4 cars as well. How they manage mixed class racing, Calvin, could very much make a difference, especially for this top class, which makes up the bulk of the field.
Yeah, we expect to see that overlap occurring sort of mid-part of this race. So where you catch that traffic, sometimes it's kind of a one line through the high-speed S's. And again, particularly those tire bundles could come into play there where you don't have quite as much real estate to work with.
Excuse me, I said Dan Lecco. Should have been David Lecco, who swept the race weekend at Sonoma when he did have some opposition. So good to have him and that Ginetta back on the grid here for the third race of the season. Talked about the variety in the machinery here, and it's a really good point with a Ferrari and a Porsche on the front row, a Corvette and an Audi on row 2, then a Mercedes and a Porsche on the third row, really highlighting the different options that drivers have coming into this race. Here's the starting grid. Tony Davis, the pole sitter for HP Tech, with Scott Blind alongside for Ruckus Racing, his first year of GT3 racing. Ross Schwest, champion in GT4 here in previous years, next to Memo Gidley. Dan Knox for Lone Star Racing in his hometown race. Kyle Washington for company in row 3. Mark Mutzo for our Ferry, and Joel Cortez for RS1 make up row number 4. Then it's the debuting Jason McCarthy for 111 competition. Dave Musial Sr. alongside John Manship for Wright Motorsports will start 11th next to Tony Ferraro for Ferraro Motorsports with help from our Ferry. CJ Moses is back, but this time in a GT3 machine. Thor Haugen will start alongside for Scuderia Corsa. Rodin Unesi making his season debut will start in row 8 next to David Lecco. And then back in the 9th row, the two GT4 competitors, Craig Lumsden and Joe Petkus, set to start out back. That's the way the 18 cars will line up for today's race. Just the one formation lap, and already they're starting to think about getting into those rows of 2 coming to the green flag. It's been a lot of build-up to get to this point, plenty of testing up until now. How well do you know track conditions? Do you know your car in those conditions going into a race at this stage of a weekend?
I think there's been plenty of practice time for these drivers to really get acclimated to the conditions at this time of the day. There's some practice sessions in similar heat and conditions yesterday afternoon. There's some heavy rains here early in the week, Tuesday and Wednesday morning, but track has rubbed it in since, so I expect them to see similar grip levels to what they've already foreseen. Obviously, you're going to be on maybe higher fuel loads here for this green flag run of 40 minutes, but I think everyone's ready to go. It's all about just anticipating this start here and minding your P's and Q's, as Brian Till spoke to the front row, telling them exactly what he expects to see. But people get antsy. You can be told 1 minute and it goes out the window the next.
To that end, turn 1 here at COTA has a reputation.
Yeah, it's so tempting. I mean, there's typically a big opening on the inside. You get a big compression with the tire when you get on the brakes eventually up into turn 1, but the tires aren't exactly in their sweet spot despite the warm temperatures here this weekend. And then it kind of funnels in, and then as cars are carving across the apex there, that's when contact can occur.
Here comes the field into alignment. Safety car pulls off and heads down the pit lane and leaves the field in the control of first-time pole sitter, who is Tony Davis, getting that opportunity to lead the field to the green flag. Cars not quite in the correct formation. Now they get sorted out. Coming to that green flag, which will wave here momentarily. Clock already ticking as they go past the control line. There's the green flag. We are racing here at Circuit of the Americas. Tony Davis with a good jump. Blend will settle in line in second place just as he was told to do. But here comes Memo Gidley on the charge right away. Former series champion from 4th on the grid. He's challenging for second place, and he'll take it away from the Porsche of Blend.
Yeah, that's where the experience kicked in, being able to put the car on that maximum attack early in the go when he wants to get that track position back. He said, well, he has competition. Qualified 4th, he's already up to P2 and looking for the lead here early.
Everyone's settling in here. No tire warmers, of course, so still pretty cold Pirelli P0s despite all the prep work that's done on that formation lap. Good getaway from Davis, who has run at the front before in Ferrari Challenge competition, so this won't be totally new to him. What will be new is having a former IndyCar driver breathing down his neck. Memo Gidley on the charges. Kyle Washington lunges aggressively to the apex.
Yeah, he lunges for the apex, but really puts on the anchors there, and suddenly Knox comes across and he loses acceleration run, and now he's under attack from behind. Looks like Cortez may have got a run on him there.
Cortez for RS1 does have a run, pokes his nose out of line, and he's got a little bit of company behind him as well. Black Ferrari making a lunge. Meanwhile, Gidley challenging for the lead. Davis chops off the nose, though, down in the brake zone and will hang on, fending off the challenge from Gidley in the Audi.
Yeah, I think this is really important for Davis. He's obviously got great pace in that Ferrari. He does not want to lose the track position, allow Gidley to control this race. Does Gidley go on the attack here? Looks to the inside. That's from a long way back. Davis opens up his hands there and gives them both enough racing room. That allows Blind to have a really good run off of turn 15.
Might have been a slight touch between the the Audi and the Ferrari. Now it's the Porsche of Blind sensing the opportunity.
Woo!
Got to the flank there, but couldn't quite control it. And Gidley slots in back in front in second place.
Awesome racing there. Blind was on the attack there. Memo just had to hold his ground, but has allowed Davis to skip off by a couple of car lengths here as those two battle it out for second.
Schwest took a look. Behind him is the Lone Star Mercedes of Knox. Then Kyle Washington still back in the 6th spot. 1 lap in the books. Davis over Gidley by 0.5 of a second. Then it's Blind in 3rd. Schwest, Knox, Washington, the top 6 at the top of the hill.
Davis, you can see, being a little bit proactive with his racing line into the brake zones here to make sure he doesn't open up the door too much. It's really tough in that twisty stadium section into 15. You kind of do that big wide entry and everyone has a little look down the inside, but he controlled that really nicely. Great racecraft by our leader so far.
Blind under pressure now from Ross Schwest in the Chevy Corvette. Great to have the Lone Star team here racing on home soil with that Mercedes. We've seen them in and out of the championship at various times.
Gidley really quick there through 9-10, looking to go on the attack here into the brake zone. Davis tries to protect. Gidley has set this one up like a chess match a couple of moves earlier. Coming through 9 and 10, he gets to the inside. Now it's going to be a hard power down, acceleration run. They almost touch there. Davis takes evasive action.
Wow, change up the lead. Gidley is through to the top spot from just 4th on the grid, but Tony Davis won't like that one bit, the way he got muscled out of the way. Gidley, though, trying to consolidate that advantage. Here comes Davis taking a peek to the inside once again. That Ferrari very strong on the brakes, and he does take the lead right back.
That was superb, really nicely done there. I think Gidley recognized that Ferrari gets in his stride. He may not be able to get him here today, so he's trying to make this attack early. Maybe they set the car up with their tire pressures as well to have performance. Maybe if he gets stymied here for a handful of laps, they'll lose that advantage and maybe it'll come the way of some of the other competitors.
Well, like we said, Davis has been in the wars before in Ferrari Challenge. He's not unaccustomed to mixing it up at the front of a field, and he's got that Linden Ferrari at the front once again, despite the challenge from the former champion, Memo Gidley. Here comes Scott Blind. He's got his rhythm back a little bit, and he's bringing Ross Schwest along to the party.
Yeah, a lot of experience there for Ross Schwest sitting there in P4 aboard the Corvette. As Amanda alluded to, melting pot of manufacturers, 5 different manufacturers in the top 5 spots on the grid.
That's the Ski Autosports team watching their driver, Memo Gidley. New livery for this season with the primarily red paint scheme with some silver accents on it. It's a big day, big weekend for that team. Team boss, co-owner Ken Hussey celebrating a birthday today, and Memo Gidley said, yeah, there's a little extra pressure to win for the boss today.
Yeah, certainly would be great to celebrate with a victory, but it's not going to be easy. Rosella Manfrenato there looked pretty concerned. Maybe she realized they got that car set up for the early laps here, and that was really demanding that Gidley got on the attack, got the lead of this motor race, and then try and defend it. Maybe reading too much into it, but that certainly could be the case because the car came alive really, really quickly, and Gidley's got the experience to put the car on the limit when the tires aren't exactly in their sweet spot.
It was still a good start. Qualified just 4th, as we talked about, to pick up a couple of spots early and briefly led the race, did Memo Gidley. Now sits in 2nd and losing a little bit of ground to the race leader, Tony Davis, who in 6 previous starts in the championship, going back to last year, one podium. That was the final race of the season last year. Finishes of just 6th and 8th in the first 2 races at Sonoma, but looks much more comfortable here at COTA.
Yeah, he does. The Ferrari looks good. They got a good setup on that race car, but Blinder's not going away. And really impressive run here by Dan Knox, sitting there in the top 5. Kyle Washington, as we said, won the opening race here last year on a bit of a high, coming off that victory in GT World Challenge at Sonoma. 115 car, Jason McCarthy, he's having a really solid run here. Great to see 111 competition back here in our championship.
Up a couple of spots since the start of the race. Qualified back in 9th. Currently shown in the 7th spot. Meanwhile, battle in GT4 right now. Craig Lumsden has the honors, but Joe Petkus making a return to the championship. That's the Porsche following the BMW. Keeping him honest, continuing to fight for the lead. Colorado Motorsports by Flying Lizard Motorsports, the operation behind Craig Lumsden, and that BMW. RCX Motorsports, the team behind the Porsche.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just 2 cars in this class, but they found each other and going side by side here. Lumsden gives Petkus the room there through that really tight section.
So Joe to the point now in the GT4 class. Saw him at the end of the year last year at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A 2nd and a win for Joe Petkus, originally from Hungary, now living in the U.S. Been a stalwart in single-make Porsche racing over the last handful of years and able to take the lead here at Circuit of the Americas, on track with that lunge around Craig Lumsden.
Blind has caught Gidley here. He's escaped the clutches of Ross Schwester a little bit. That allows him just to focus forward momentarily. As I say that, Schwester's right with him as they accelerate off of turn 11. Bit of a dyno run here, about 6/10 of a mile in length, 1 kilometer. The stretch between 11 and 12.
Love that speed shot down the backstretch, Shikoda, nearly a kilometer in length. Great test of the top speed of the car, then the braking at the end of it. Now into this tight, twisty section here where having the downforce certainly comes into play. One thing about this track is it challenges the car in just about every way imaginable with the different components in each of the sections.
Yeah, and we think about this being a Formula One circuit and being pretty smooth. There's actually some pretty big bumps around this place, particularly in some of the bump zone and some of the brake zones, excuse me, which become bump zones. And there's a big bump up there into turn 1 as well. So you got to have a car that's working over the curves. As you can see, those drivers eating those up a little bit. Just trying to create a bigger radius through these turns, lay a bit more speed on top of that, but track limits will come into play. You got to be in bounds. You can't have no part of the car touching that white line, the extremity of the racetrack.
Tony Davis crosses the line to lead yet another lap. Let's get more on him now with Amanda in the pits.
Yeah, guys, you can see a little bit of swagger coming back to Tony Davis here this weekend. If you go back to his Ferrari Challenge career, he actually picked up his first podium here back in 2022, so maybe that has a little bit to do with it as well. But he wasn't feeling so well in Sonoma, but comes in here, puts it on that pole position. Guys, I saw him in the GT Paddock Club earlier rocking that Rova pole position medal around his neck and said, "This thing is staying on me. I need some racing luck for," said he hasn't won anything in a year and a half. My question, though, if he wins that trophy, is he taking it to dinner tonight?
Well, you in victory lane if things go according to plan. How about this story? At the back of this train, in the top 5, fastest lap of the race belongs to Dan Knox from McKinney, Texas, driving for Lone Star Racing. We've seen Dan race at the GT3 level. He races like the Daytona 24, Sebring 12 hour, things like that in recent years. We've seen him here racing GT2, but decided to break out the old warhorse, GT3 Mercedes AMG. And it's a great grid here this weekend that he could be a part of. And if you're running in the top 5 of this group, you're doing something right.
Yeah, he's a really solid driver, always puts in a great performance. The team is ace. AJ Peterson have always raved about his engineering abilities with a relatively small team. This team has been kind of been given the AMG entry at the Indy 8 Hours for a number of years with a ton of success there representing that brand. So you know the team can get the job done. Dan's having a really solid run here this weekend.
And we saw them campaign a car last year at the 8 Hour that included Maxime Martin and Jules Gounon, Lynn Hodanius. The year before that, Alex Palou was part of their driving lineup, and they've helped to win that race in the past with Craft Bamboo as they provided the support for that operation, coming to run the 8-hour at the end of the year.
Tony Davis' crew there looking on at the progress of their charge up front. Seems to be controlling things nicely. Still compromising his line a little bit into some of these brake zones, just thinking about if Gidley tries to surprise him with a late move down the inside, it'd make it a little bit tougher for him, but he just seems to be very poised right now. It seems like he's got the confidence in the race car. Through here, I did see him run a little bit wider line. Right there, you can see just kind of gets his car a little bit wider, whereas Gidley kind of carves the corner a little bit tighter through some of those tire bundles.
Sense of urgency started to creep in for Gidley as Blend gets faster and faster. Just did the best lap of the race.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tight. I mean, you can't really blink right now, otherwise you are going to be passed. So Gidley's in a situation where, yeah, he'd love to get the lead, but he can't afford to open up the door because Scott Blend has just been sitting there, and he hasn't made a big move yet. But I know his personality. I had a good chat with him, and I think he's ready to go. He's had a lot of success here over the years at COTA, has a ton of experience on this racetrack, so he's in that comfort zone. He's feeling good as he's side by side here with Knox now, run on Schwest as Gidley looks to the inside into the brake zone once again for turn 12.
Looked like Ross got balked a corner back, and that gave Knox the run. Tried to make his way to apex, but the Corvette was still there. Thankfully, they saw each other in time and were able to continue on without making contact, but Schwest looks a bit vulnerable now to the Mercedes man.
He certainly does, and this has allowed Washington to get a little bit closer. You know, he's not afraid to get his elbows out as well, so overcharges turned 15 a little bit there, did Kyle Washington in the GMG Porsche, the multicolored car at the back of this group of 6 cars.
A couple of penalties have come in. Pre-race procedure violation. This involves working on the car beyond the time on the pre-grid that you're allowed to do so. So 45 is Scott Blend. That is a significant penalty. Currently sits in that 3rd spot, and it's a 5-second time penalty. He really needs to get on his giddy up here and try and pull a gap and minimize the potential damage of that. Another car that got the same penalty, Tony Ferraro, back in 13th.
Yeah, we're not quite sure for what that was. It might have been just too late, just clearing the grid and things like getting the car down on the deck. But once he gets that message, that may change his thought process behind the wheel. He can't afford to be patient and just let the race come to him. He's got to get out front and gap the field by 5 seconds. And he's got cars really close to him. So he could suddenly be dropped well down the order as tight as this pack is up front right now.
Well, it's a 5-car party at the front of the field, but it's about to be 6 because Kyle Washington just laid down the race's fastest lap, and you can see him just tail into the shot a moment ago. He has caught Knox now to make this a 6-car race for positions 1 through 6.
Yeah, and that included a little slip going through turn 15, so I think there's a lot of pace potential in that GMG Porsche. We've seen that a little bit with Kyle this year. He's kind of not been quite so consistently quick. Still fast, but a little bit more sporadic, and then he suddenly finds it and comes alive.
Here comes Gidley now, stalking the leader Davis. Can't quite seem to decide if he wants to go to the inside or the outside. Davis parks that car right in the middle of the racetrack. Might have compromised his exit a little bit. Here comes Gidley now, closer than he's been in a few laps.
Yeah, he's certainly managing things at the front in terms of placing that race car. This is where Gidley had a little poke down the inside earlier, too far back, recognized that Davis was seeing that and just gave him a little bit of racing room, but still maintained the lead during that early little attack that we saw from Gidley aboard that Audi.
Amo did not run the full season last year, so in contrast to this year, he's been super busy in 2026. Ran the Asian Le Mans Series in the off-season. Of course, was there at Sonoma with a couple of wins to build that championship lead coming into this 2nd round at COTA. And now, stalking Tony Davis. Talked to Memo about Tony a little bit before this race, and he said, I don't really know Tony all that well, but the lap he did in qualifying got Memo's attention and said, yeah, he's really executing at a high level.
Yeah, and he actually drove in that Asian Le Mans Series. He was driving a Ferrari, so he kind of knows what that Ferrari can do. Drove with Kessel Racing in conjunction with a Ferrari Challenge team out of Florida led by Orlam Sonora.
I believe that was the previous generation of the Ferrari, not the Evo, as Asian Le Mans runs to a older homologation that will be eligible for that series next year. But still, you're right. good insight. Ooh, and a problem here. Thor Haugen has gone around. That's up at turn 1.
It's in the Scuderia Corsa machine. I saw their transporter in the paddock and was looking at some of their accolades over the years. You forget how much success that team has had in GT3 competition.
Champions at IMSA, big time endurance race wins. He was fighting for position there with John Manship when he looped it at the top of turn 1.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre there. Just kind of rolled too much speed in there and maybe just felt the car going, maybe stayed on the brakes. That kind of pins the nose and loosens up the rear at the top of that hill there. Traffic coming into play here. We talked about halfway through the race, but right at that point as we've got to deal with some of these GT4 cars.
If you remember, at Sonoma, Lumsden was stuck with 2 SRO3 cars splitting him on either side. It's not quite so dramatic here this time. It's funny because apparently we said something to the effect of, I wonder what Craig's thinking in that moment. He found me in the paddock to tell me exactly what he was thinking. He said, this looks like a good race. I want to see the end of it. He was enjoying watching that GT3 battle as it came through, and he'll be doing so here once again.
Got split at probably about 130, 140 miles an hour there on the run up into turn 1 at Sonoma. Not a great place to be, but it sounded like he handled it perfectly.
Understand Haugen might have had another spin on this lap. Indications are he's been able to continue on. And this fight continues. It's down to just 4 cars though now. Knox lost a little ground, perhaps in that traffic. He's going to be playing defense here before too much longer. Washington is looking as threatening as he has all race long.
Petkus is just a little bit up the road and the leader in the GT4 division, so they could come across him before they complete these S's.
There he was just a moment ago, that Porsche Cayman. Leaders will catch him and not too much further down the road. So much of it is timing, right? You catch that traffic at an inopportune time, like if they had caught him right here, for instance, you're stuck just sitting and waiting. Not much you could do, even if it's out of class traffic. Other places, like the back straightaway, it's much easier, of course, to make that pass for the top class cars.
So it worked out well for the leader, and Gidley clears him as well, and then goes through Blint, Schwess, Knox, and company just getting to him now.
Petkus, though, sees them coming, gives them plenty of space. We've been talking a lot about that top 6, but how about Mark Muzzo and McCarthy and Cortez and Musial all running together as well? Actually, Musial a little bit off of this pack, but it's still a 3-car squabble over 7th, 8th, and 9th.
McCarthy's having a good run. Last time he was in a race car was back in October of last year, so trying to get back into his rhythm. Really nice team, led by Peter Spinella. Started restoration cars and moved up into Ferrari Challenge back in 2013, based up in Long Island. Got a great engineer there, so it's a really top-notch team when they do show up. They've got all of the tools in their chest, that's for sure.
Jason won a Ferrari Challenge title back in 2021. He's been a frequent race winner and podium contender over the last handful of seasons, but making the step up to GT3 like so many have out of Ferrari Challenge. Earlier you made mention of the reigning champion, can't say defending because he's not here in the series, but Justin Rothberg, and he's another one of those success stories that have come out of challenge racing into GT3, not necessarily staying with Ferrari, but proving that's a really good place to hone your craft.
Yeah, and I think it's really paved the way for many more of these Ferrari Challenge competitors. Think about this could be a really good spot for them. Some of them will actually curtail their Ferrari Challenge programs for this year to jump into GT America in the SRO field.
McCarthy here in the center of the shot. That's the matte black machine. Just behind is Cortez giving chase. We were telling the story about McCarthy a few moments ago. Amanda, you know him well. You've covered him in Ferrari Challenge quite a bit over the years.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of these guys race here, specifically at this track. I actually remember Justin Rothberg beating Mark Muzzo here in one of Justin's early races in his careers. But on to Jason McCarthy. He's got a really busy season upcoming. I was hoping we were going to see him a little bit more out here, but he told me he got one of those F1 cars, and he's going to be racing it over seas, taking it out to see things. But he said the thing that he's most excited about is that he started racing with his son. His son went through the Skip Barber School, and they've got a pair of Miatas, and they're just taking it to the track, guys. And so maybe we'll see another McCarthy come through the ranks here.
That is very cool. Always special to have that connection down the generations. Love of motorsport being passed along.
They raced those Miatas up at the concourse, excuse me, at Monticello, up in the New York area.
Now has found another longtime Ferrari Challenge competitor in Mark Muzzo to fight with here. For the R-Ferry team, certainly no newcomers to what is now SRO America. They were front runners for many, many years, running effectively the factory-affiliated Ferrari in what was then Pirelli World Challenge. Think about names like Tony Vilander and Miguel Molina driving that car, Daniel Serra in it at times over the years, and they were certainly one of the gold standard teams for quite a long time in the championship.
Yeah, great to see Enrico Diano and the whole group back in our paddock, top-notch team. Rainbow Ferry is a keen and avid motorsports competitor. Still have a Ferrari Challenge team, Ferrari Ontario, so they're regular competitors there, but great to see them in our paddock. They're committed to the first 5 races, it sounds like, then they'll see where they sit in the championship before they commit to the final 2 at Barber and Indy.
Yeah, Enrico was telling me that Mark has usually some personal commitments kind of in the second half of the year, but if he starts to run well, he thinks he might be able to make a compelling case to be able to finish out the season.
Finally clears up.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And that team also helping quite a bit, Tony Ferraro and the SRO Motorsports team that's running down in 12th right now. Tony making the step to SRO America starting here this weekend, and he's got a partial schedule planned for the season 2. Back to 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and Scott Blind has fallen off now of Memo Gidley, who continues to hassle Tony Davis. Davis, for his part, seems more or less untroubled by the fact that he's got championship caliber driver breathing down his neck. Haven't talked much about the Cup class yet, but it's great to see the Ginetta back for the second weekend.
He's done a nice job. His pace is about 4 seconds quicker than the GT4 cars that are running in their own class, of course, and he's about 5 to 10 seconds off the back of the SRO3 field. But these Ginetta's awesome race cars, look like a bundle of fun to drive, and Leco's doing a really nice job here.
Yeah, he comes out of some single make style racing in a Ginetta championship. Stepping up here for the first time this year. It's a cool car, as you say, the G56 GTP8, just under 400 brake horsepower, naturally aspirated V8, 6.2 liter, so big displacement, sounds great, and yeah, great performance at a reasonable cost. However, we talked about how traffic can impact the leaders and where you want to catch traffic, where you don't want to catch traffic. This would probably be in the don't column, right?
Yeah, for sure, but that Ginetta actually rolls pretty good speed through the apexes, but Davis has found a way through, and that's allowed him a gap. Gidley just a little bit, and suddenly Blind is right there, so definitely those 2 leaders were stymied a little bit. That was tight there with Blind just clearing the flanks there of that Ginetta as they came through the S's there at high speed.
Like Schwest might have got the worst of that, had to check up and cost him some momentum. Here comes Washington with a big lunge to the inside. He likes that shallow approach. Musial has gone off in the S's, able to rejoin, no harm, no foul.
The trouble when you make that big dive bomb down to the inside, you kind of get out of the camera view and the side view mirrors to see where the competitor is. There you see just that loop there coming through the S's. There's a lot of speed that you're carrying there, big commitment, and if you get a little bit wrong, suddenly it'll just lose the tail on the race car for you. But didn't hit anything, he'll continue. May have some flat spots on that tire, but either way, look up front here.
I think this was side by side not too long ago, because at the last timing beacon, Gidley and Davis were separated by 67 thousandths of a second. Davis was able to hold him off though, and Gidley has to settle back in. 14.5 minutes to work with. How about this performance, though, from Davis? He's been under pressure the entire race, briefly lost the lead, in fact, but was able to get back to the front.
Yeah, he's looked pretty unflappable, hasn't he? He lost that lead and immediately went back on the attack, did a really beautiful classic overtaken move up into turn 1 on Gidley. Blinder's just been sitting there. He hasn't really made any big moves right now. He's got that 5-second penalty. Let's not forget he's got to deal with at the end of this race as well.
That's a good point. How far would that drop him back? To 7th, I think, as they run.
Yeah, maybe 6th.
6th, 7th, something like that. It's an interesting situation to be in here. If he were to catch Gidley, are you better off fighting with him and maybe slowing yourself up, or do you keep running at the leader's pace here, trying to build that gap and minimize the damage that way?
Yeah, well, I think if he just sort of like sits with them, the best he can hope for is holding on to a 3rd position. I think he'd love to get out front, but time is not on his side now. We're basically 2/3 of the way through this motor race, and he doesn't have many laps to work with here. So I think he's just learning here. He'll be a little bit disappointed about that infraction that the team obviously got caught out by. But I think he'll take it on the chin. He loves the group that he's working with. He's really proud of how he's really got a great core group of personnel on that Ruckus racing team. I asked him where did the word Ruckus come from, and he said, well, we used to race karts and we used to create a ruckus, and someone said, well, let's come up with the name. It felt like a good one. His daughter actually raced karts a little bit as well. She's now 14 years old, and she had a bit of an accident, knocked her confidence a little bit, so she switched to golf, and apparently he's doing extremely well. So really keen junior golfer at the moment. So she'll be watching down and be very proud of his performance here today.
Often at the racetrack in support of Scott. Scott himself a big supporter of motorsports. We told the story before, but he did a lot to champion the career of Spike Kolbecker, who came into this weekend as the Toyota GR Cup Championship leader and had another podium earlier today. Both of them are from the St. Louis area, and it was through his support of Spike at a Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge race several years ago that he was, well, I take that back. Spike was racing in single-seaters, but GT3 Cup Challenge was there as well. That kind of got Scott's attention, and it made him realize there was a way for him to pursue his racing dream, even though he was coming at it much later in life than he assumed you had to make it to this level. It's a great story, and he could tell he's super proud of the success that Spike is at. Well, we were talking a bit about the Ginetta earlier. While things have settled down at the front of the field, Amanda can give us more on its story.
Yeah, I just love how excited he was during Sonoma and the weekend that he had with the Ginetta. Actually, GT America used this Ginetta for the lap of the track here this weekend with some commentary by David, but I was perusing through his social media. He does real estate investment. He has 100,000 followers on Instagram, but he talks about not only his real estate career, but also the racing career. In one of the recent videos this week, almost in conjunction with what we're dealing with here in Austin, Texas, he talked about the importance of a cool suit. He said that his race car can get up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit inside of there, and said that it's actually one of the most essential things for drivers.
Problems on track for Kyle Washington. From 6th place, he is spun around, and it took him a little while to get that car refired.
Yeah, that's not great, and that may open up a gap for Blind with his 5-second penalty to drop into. So up front, though, Gidley is keeping the pressure on Davis. He hasn't blinked yet, even though Gidley got by him momentarily for about half a lap.
Looks like that cost Washington a couple of spots. And we're hearing that we've had a couple of cars have spins this lap. Not sure if that's connected or not, but for Washington, he came in here second in points, 22 out of the championship lead. Early in the season to be thinking too much about the championship, but while Gidley runs second, it has not been the best of days for Washington now, as shown in 9th.
Yeah, and that's good news for championship leader Gidley, who swept the weekend at Sonoma. So, yeah, he may not grab the top points here today unless he can figure out a solution to this puzzle of Davis up front. But the fact that his closest competitor is now well down the order, just inside the top 10.
To some degree, though, this is the warm-up act for Kyle, because he'll be racing in the GT World Challenge America race tomorrow. 3-hour race, as is the the case for all but one of the events this year. In 2026, the Indy 8-hour is the exception, and what a remarkable season opener he, GMG, and his co-driver Tom Sargent had in that season opener for GT World Challenge at Sonoma last month.
Yeah, he won that race, and Tom Sargent then went off and won an ELMS competition, swept the Carrera Cup weekend at Long Beach just last weekend, so his teammates very much on a high. And he continues to work with Carl. I spoke to Carl yesterday about Tom Sargent's confidence. He said, well, he's getting more and more seat time aboard one of these Porsche GT3 machines, and he's getting faster and faster, and he's really, he said, the nice thing is I'm not afraid to drive a car that's loose and on edge. You sometimes find there's a compromise when you've got a Pro-Am combination that the AM driver cannot drive the car on that edge where the car might be a little bit loose. He said, I'm used to dirt bugs. I'm used to the machine sliding around. So he said, I feel we can drive a race car that's very compatible to both of us.
One thing to keep an eye on is fastest lap of the race here, because that's what sets the grid for race 2 tomorrow. And right now, Memo Gidley has the fastest lap of the race only by 12 thousandths of a second over Tony Davis. So they would be on the front row tomorrow as it stands. With the edge to Gidley, he would start from pole position. Those two have a pretty significant advantage over everybody else in terms of the best lap of the race up to this point.
Yeah, basically half a second clear of the rest of the chasers, so that's a significant margin to have. And even though Blind's kind of keeping them in touch in distance, not sure he's got that edge in speed to really threaten those two guys as Rosella looks on.
This is how they would line up tomorrow, at least through the top 5 as it stands. It's not entirely unheard of for drivers to be able to put in fast laps late in the running with this generation of Pirelli P0. But it's not the easiest thing to do.
The tire was introduced at Road America last year. We introduced this new car, new tire, and it's got thumbs up all the way around in terms of its longevity, the grip level that it produces. And as we mentioned earlier, talking to drivers about this 40-minute, essentially a sprint race, they just said, no, the tire's really good. We don't have to factor it in too much. The tire pressure that we're allowed to start with seems to get the car up into its sweet spot ultimately when the temps are in. You also find with the heat that we're having here with the sun, a lot of the teams will actually heat soak the tires out in the sun to kind of prep them and can then run at the lower pressure and it doesn't build too high once you got the car and tire out on the racetrack.
Well, Schwest has done well in this race to keep tabs with this top group. Only running in GT America this year after doing dual campaigns in previous seasons between GT America and GT World Challenge, and then back in his GT4 days, he would do really GT4 America as well as GT America, but really concentrating on this championship. The car entered in GT World Challenge America, and they used that for some extra seat time, not just for Ross, but also Aaron Povoledo, who helps to run that team. And when they have driven in the 2-driver format, Aaron's been the co-driver. What that allows them to do is put Aaron in the car and help to drive some of the setup work forward. That would not be available to them in an official session if they were only entered in GT America. Yeah,
we kind of saw the reverse of that, right, for many years with teams, and even some this year entering in GT America just to get the extra track time. But the other way around, it works great. As you said, you can get your driver coach and someone who's got a bit more experience can help you with the setup even further.
There's traffic once again here in the final 5.5 minutes. Craig Lumsden giving a wide berth to the SRO 3 competitors. Lind and Schwest tripped up a bit more in that exchange than Davis and Gidley. This has been quite the performance from Davis. Now just needs to hang on for another 5 minutes. But
3 laps to go, I'd imagine, here, looking at the time on the clock. So I thought for a moment then maybe Gidley's just biding his time, thinking if there's a weak link in the armor here of Tony Davis. But he's dropped back a little bit, so he's got some work to do before he can think about making a surprise move on him. Certainly on the attack early, and then he just kind of sat there and sitting in his wheel tracks, just waiting for Davis to make a mistake or look for opportunity in traffic, as we see some of the rest of the pack here. This allowed McCarthy to get right with Knox. He's got by Knox in this little schmozzle here with the traffic.
Knox read that not quite as well as the Ferrari driver McCarthy did. That's a change of 5th position, so put McCarthy up a spot. Knox now, his troubles are not over. Here comes Mark Mutzo, Joel Cortez in the Porsche as well.
Yeah, McCarthy's having a really solid run here. As we said, he hasn't driven a race car since the latter part of last year, so I think he's feeling it now, starting to get into a nice rhythm, running some really nice lap times. He's carved a lap time just about half a second off the best of the day so far of Mamo Gidley.
4 spots. No one has made more progress in the race today than Jason McCarthy. Promising sign of things to come. Now Mutzo taking a peek to the inside of the Mercedes of Knox. Dan not going to give that spot up without a fight. Able to hang on and fend on off the challenge here momentarily. Cortez also looking really strong. This is a track he knows well from Mexico, but has done a lot of racing here at COTA over the years.
McCarthy's definitely taking advantage of that traffic and got a pretty healthy margin over Dan Knox during the course of essentially just half a lap here, so Knox is going to have to be a little bit defensive with Mutzo, and Cortez sitting right in his shadows as well, of course.
It wasn't that long ago when Knox was mixing it up inside the top 5, fighting with Blind and Schwest and the rest. Davis was awfully defensive into turn 1. Does have a little traffic looming up the road, and this is a tough spot to catch it once again. Davis decisive in Petkus as well. Make sure he does not interfere with the battle for the lead.
Yeah, Davis is just very wary, isn't he? You can see by how he picks those lines into the brake zones that he's just worried that some of the experience of Gidley may try and surprise him there. So he's just making sure he doesn't have to cover too much ground if he wants to protect that inside line. But suddenly Blinder's right there. Real concertina going on here between these top 3 at the front of the pack.
This has worked out well for Scott. This trio has left the rest of the field. Remember, Blind is carrying that time penalty with him, 5 seconds post-race. I think this would cost him the spot to Schwest, but no more.
That's right. Yeah, with Washington having his issues and Knox dropping back a little bit, that would just basically drop him the 1 spot at this stage, but we've got a few minutes left in this race.
Ferrari, Audi, Porsche. 1, 2, 3. Linked together as they have been for the better part of 40 minutes at this stage. We'll see the white flag next time around. So time running out here for Mamo Gidley and Scott Blind if they're going to do anything about this. Or will Tony Davis hang on for his first win after scoring his first career pole earlier today?
Yeah, how badly does Mamo want this victory? Is he thinking championship already, knowing that Washington, his closest pursuer, is a little bit deeper in the field right now? As you said, want to celebrate his team owner, car owner's birthday here this weekend. But Davis has just really positioned that Ferrari in all of the right places so far, coming up to the white flag here as they come up the front stretch.
Left-hander of turn 20. Timing line not too far ahead. There it is. They go across, and there's the white flag signaling 1 lap to go at Circuit of the Americas. Tony Davis by 0.3 of a second. Another 0.6 back. That's where you find Scott Blind. Davis again goes defensive, covers off the inside line of approach, but here comes Gidley starting to pick up the pace. He's got an opening there, but it closes just like that.
He kind of taunted Davis there a little bit to take that inside line, and then maybe he'll just set up the big wide radius to come off of turn 1 with a ton of speed. Couldn't quite get to the flank of the Ferrari, and that's allowed Blind to get a little bit closer once again. Does he try and force it? You'd have to think there's maybe a surprise move potential down into the brake zone for turn 11 or into turn 15, but again, high risk but big reward.
Those are the 2 spots Calvin's got circled. Now the fly in the ointment potentially is Scott Blind. Will he get in here and mix it up with his duo at the front of the pack? Again, Davis forced to guard the inside line jealously.
Gidley's going to get a big run here, Ryan.
Davis opens the door. Here comes Gidley now, and he'll draw alongside down this back straightaway, heading down towards the stadium section, and it is nose to nose, just about even between the two of them. Audi and Ferrari with the Porsche waiting in the wings. Gidley at the timing beacon to entering sector 3 by 4 1,000. Oh, and there's contact. Gidley is through. Ski Auto Sports celebrating. Davis and Blend came together momentarily, and that's allowed Gidley to escape.
Yeah, that was great car control, and Blind recognized that he was into the corner of that Ferrari and gave it up enough just for him to maintain control. But Davis has got back up on the wheel as the team looks on to see if he can recover here, but time and corners are running out rapidly.
Now, he's been in this spot once before. Gidley did get by momentarily in the first quarter of the race, but this time he's been able to make good his escape. On Kent Hussey's birthday, the team owner, he'll have a big old present waiting for him in victory lane. Memo Gidley through the final quarter, last lap heroics, and Gidley takes the win at Circuit of the Americas. Blend comes through, and on the road was ahead of Davis, but with that 5-second penalty, he'll drop down to 4th. Ross Schwest will complete the podium, and Jason McCarthy scores a top 5.
Wow, that was classic Coda racing right there. Davis had to protect that inside line. Gidley got really close, and we thought that turn 11 was going to be an opportunity. Davis thought the same thing, but he got so shallow on the entry. Gidley just set it up wide and got that launch off of turn 11 and got alongside him.
Early in the going, Joe Petkus able to get around Craig Lumsden, and from there he pulled away a second career win in GT America for Joe Petkus. This one comes at Circuit of the Americas. We've got the Ginetta of Lecco coming to the checkered flag as well. Right around him is the Haugen and Ferraro battle. That is for position, 12th and 13th. So Lecco will be keeping an eye on that as he makes his way to the checkered flag. I know he's keen to have some more of these Ginettas turn up here in the championship to have some competition to race against. The class also available to Ferrari Challenge cars and some other single-make machinery. We saw a little bit of that at Sonoma in the form of a Ferrari, but here it's just this Ginetta. Great-looking machine, deal machine on the side of it. And Lecco will complete his run after this final left-hand turn. Lecco to the stripe and sees the checkered flag at Circuit of the Americas. Haugen does hold off Ferraro there at the end. And I think Ferraro was carrying one of those penalties as well, so I'm not sure it would have mattered, but bragging rights, of course, up for grabs. And here come Unesi and Moses, the last two to see the checker flag here today.
Yeah, great to see CJ back in a GT3 car. It's been a while, right? 21, I think, when he ran with DXDT.
Exactly right. Didn't get a chance to do any testing prior to this weekend. They had it planned, but he's been a busy guy with his day job, looking after security for AWS. Just enjoying the chance to get back to the racetrack here. Has been smiling all weekend long, CJ Moses. Big smile here too. What a finish for Memo Gidley. A race-long duel with Tony Davis, but it took till the final half a lap in order to get to the front, and he was able to keep it from there. Let's look back on how the move was made.
Yeah, it's really set up by that run through turn 11, and he gets to the inside flank, and just there, Blinn just gets in the side of the Ferrari. Great car control there by Davis to keep it together, but that gives the gap to Gidley and takes all of the pressure off of the final few corners.
Now that was dramatic stuff. It should be easier for Gidley tomorrow. He had the fastest lap of the race. He will start from pole position, but he'll have Davis alongside, and we know Davis will be feisty.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a fierce battle. Those two seem to have an edge, even though Blinn was right there with them. But when you look at fastest laps, they had about a half-second delta over the rest of the field. But really a great job by Scott Blinn. That was an excellent race and really good control there when he got in the back of the Ferrari not to turn him.
Good result as well for Schwest, 4th on the road, promoted to 3rd with the penalty to Blend. Didn't have the best of outings at Sonoma with a 4th and a 9th, but he comes home 3rd here, and that will help him make a little ground up in the standings. 1.4 seconds is the official distance between 1st and 2nd, but tell you what, that does not tell the story. They were locked together, and that lead changed hands on the final lap. Blend in 4th, good run for him. McCarthy 5th, maybe the star of the show. Knocks down in 6th ahead of Mutso Cortez. Washington A disappointing ninth. He'll try to bounce back tomorrow. Then it's Manship in 10th. Lecco, the winner in the Cup class. Petkus in GT4. Well, track goes quiet, at least for the moment, but the celebration's about to break that silence. Look at the smile for Memo Gidley. He still loves this today as much as he ever has.
Oh, he's got so much passion for motorsports. Love to see it at this later stage of his career. What a comeback he's made from that horrendous crash that he had at Daytona back in 2014. Just the determination that he's shown to get back in a race car and now winning races and championships. Just amazing.
I wondered if he would be content to run second, given the position of his rivals in the championship, given the fact he was going to be likely on pole for race 2, but there was none of that. As soon as the door was open, he went right through it.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go high risk in terms of getting the lead, but if the opportunity arose, which it certainly did there with the setup through turn 11, that's what Coda does to you. When you got the lead, you got to protect, otherwise someone's just going to plow it down the inside, and Davis unfortunately just got on the wrong side of that.
That said, for Tony, yes, he's denied his first career win in the championship, but you were going wheel to wheel with Memo Gidley, and for nearly 40 minutes had the better of him.
Yeah, he'll enjoy dinner tonight, but it would have tasted a little bit sweeter with the win. But that's the great thing, doubleheader weekends, you can come back stronger a little bit more tomorrow.
Exactly. They will try it again tomorrow, but let's go ahead and hear from Amanda now with our happy winner.
Yes, Huck's in the winner circle, definitely happy winner, and I knew you weren't going to give up on this one, and it's because of that man right there. I have to tell you, I was watching the Hussies up on the balcony. I was watching the Hussies up on the balcony of the GT Paddock Club, and when I tell you that Kent's hands went up in the air, he told me that he was happy with second, but more happy with this. Melissa said it's the best birthday present ever. What do you want to say to that guy right there?
Oh my God, well, Kent, awesome. You know, his birthday today is awesome. We're celebrating it. They were supposed to be somewhere else. They surprised us on Thursday to be here. It was like, without them here, it would have been missing. So happy birthday, Kent. The team was awesome. I love seeing this many GT America drivers now and really appreciate being out there. It's just a dream come true for me.
Does that trophy go to him?
Oh, absolutely. They all go to him.
Happy birthday, Kent. I'm going to head over to our GT4 winner. Where's Joe at? All right. Nice job, sir.
Thank you.
We have talked to Craig and Sonoma about what it's just like being out here with the GT3 cars, and they were splitting him in Sonoma. Just for the fan watching at home, what is that experience like in a GT4 car?
I mean, I'm just all the time driving GT4. I never tried a GT3, so I can't tell you the much different. I love it. So
When they race by you?
I mean, they fast. I tell you the truth. Sometimes it's scary, but they do a really good job.
You did well today, Joe. Congratulations.
Certainly did. Congratulations to him. It's another win for Joe after breaking through to get to victory lane in Indianapolis at the tail end of the year last year. There's the Ginetta of David Lecco, who ran unopposed here today, but did a good job to get to the finish line, and we'll see him again in race 2 coming up tomorrow. Hot afternoon in the state of Texas, just outside of the state capital of Austin. That's where you find Circuit of the Americas and GT America, powered by AWS. Got its weekend started with Tony Davis on pole, but it was Memo Gidley from 4th on the grid, aggressive early on, able to get to the outside of Scott Blend and take that second position away coming down the hill. Close fights between Gidley and Davis. For a while, Gidley was ahead, but a great counterattack, and Davis took the lead back just a few corners later. Side-by-side action, Blend in the mix too. This was coming to the checkered flag on the final lap of the race. Memo Gidley able to sweep through, take the lead, and score the victory on team owner Kent Hussey's birthday. Davis comes home second, with Schwest elevated to 3rd after the penalty to Blend post-race. We'll be back tomorrow for the second race of the weekend. And here's a look at the points. After race number 1, Memo Gidley, Scott Blend now up into 2nd place, but look at the gulf he's going to have to overcome. Mark Mutso, quiet day, but a good one. Just 1 point out of 2nd place in 3rd, then Washington and Davis, the top 5. As mentioned, race 2 coming your way at 9:40 a.m. local time. We hope to see you then.